In today's video, we're going to be going through and discussing the quest titled The Wayward Knight in the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. In order to even begin this quest, we must have completed Dagon's Shrine as per the main questline. Upon completion, a plethora of Oblivion gates open up around the province of Cyrodiil. One of them opens up just outside the major city of Cheydinhal, and this is where our quest begins. We're actually at the Allies for Bruma portion of the main quest, meaning that we were advised to go to Castle Cheydinhal anyways in order to plead for the help from the Count. Arriving in the eastern city, we head inside of the castle. Running up towards the courtroom, we see Count Andalindaris sitting on his throne. We approach and speak with him.
I don't have time to chat right now. With that Oblivion gate looming outside the city walls, we're bracing for an attack. Perhaps we can speak later.
Intrigued, we ask Count Andalindaris about the Oblivion gate.
Not long ago, one of those foul gates manifested itself just outside the west gates of our city. Nothing's come out of it yet, but we fear the worst. My son, Farwill, has taken some knights and entered the gate bravely in hopes of meeting the enemy head-on. If you want to help, and we can use all the help we can get, head over to the gate and lend a hand to the guards.
With that, we end the conversation. Worth noting is that the Wayward Knight can be completed well before Allies for Bruma. So technically, this quest can be completed, and then when it's time to actually go through Allies for Bruma, we can just come back and ask him for aid. Exiting the castle, we pop up on our map and fast travel over to the stables for quickest access to the Oblivion Gate. Pretty much immediately upon our arrival, we can see the Hellish Gate flaring up in the distance. As we get closer, we receive a quest update that in order to learn about what's going on here, we should speak with the surrounding Cheydinhal guard. Going further up the hill, we see a small dispatch of soldiers walking our way. We speak with one of them.
Please speak to Aminus. He can tell you what you need to know.
Instantly, our attention gets pulled elsewhere.
I'd advise you to keep your distance from that accursed portal.
It turns out to be Aminus, and we ask him about the Oblivion Gate.
Haven't you heard about these gates to Oblivion opening up all over Tamriel?
For fun, we say no and ask him to tell us about them.
Well, not much to say, really. These gates to other places, it's very hard to explain. I'm not sure I even understand it. I hear tell that the Daedra make their way through these and invade our lands. It's sort of a door to the world where they live. Haven't seen it myself and don't intend to. Being this close to one makes me nervous. The good news is nothing's come out since Farwill entered.
We ask him about Farwill.
About 2 days ago, Count Indaris' son, Farwill, entered the Oblivion Gate with 6 other men. We haven't heard from them since then. The Count fears the worst, and has posted guards here so we can watch and see if anyone comes back out. So far, nothing. At this point, Count Indaris is offering a reward for the recovery of his son from inside the gate, or confirmed news of his demise. If you find him, or the rest of the Knights of the Thorn, get them out of there. I'm sure the Count would also be pleased if the gate was closed.
We ask Aminus about the Knights of the Thorn.
New to these parts, eh? The Knights of the Thorn are a bunch of rabble who fancy themselves true knights. Farwill formed the group around 2 years ago. They make grand boasts and talk a good talk, but that's all they are. The real work goes to us, the city guard. I hate to speak ill of them, as something horrible may have happened, but their own bravado got them into this mess.
We ask why this behavior is tolerated.
It's tolerated because Farwill is the Count's son, plain and simple. He has the power and the coin to put it all together. Most of the time, they lounge around the tavern drinking, making up stories of epic battles with impossible odds that they won. It's all garbage. They never patrol. They never help fight off the occasional bandit that slips into the city. Well, I've said too much already.
We ask a little more about Farwill.
Farwill is a Dunmer, and he's wearing steel plate armor. His shield should bear the crest of the Knights. Nothing but the best for the Count's son.
We ask a little more about the Knights of the Thorn.
There are 7 of them, including Farwill. Even though they're a nuisance, I still hope they haven't been hurt. Or worse.
Finally, we ask further on the Oblivion Gate.
There's only one way to remove that gate. Venture inside, find the gate sigil stone, and take it. Once you have it, the gate should be closed. From what I hear, you'll appear back where you entered, safe and sound. We will remain out here until the gate is either closed or something emerges from inside. We need to warn Cheydinhal of impending attacks.
With that, we exit the conversation. Aminus has told us to be on the lookout for 7 different Knights of the Thorn within the Oblivion Gate. It's definitely interesting that at this point, the game knows we've been through multiple Oblivion Gates, and yet it still allows Aminus to tell us about them like we haven't come across them before. It's probably our fault for baiting him into it though. Stepping into the realm of Oblivion, we're back in the all too familiar hellish landscape. Almost immediately, we spot a dead Dunmer right by the gate entrance. Approaching, he appears to be one of the Knights of the Thorn, which is certainly not a good sign. The Cheydinhal Oblivion world is pretty straightforward. We spawn on what appears to be the top of a hill. We work our way down and fight various Daedra on the way. As per usual, the Daedra are level to us, which definitely plays a factor later in this quest. After doing a whole lot of fighting and a whole lot of descending, we'll slowly come across more dead Knights of the Thorn, showing that things are not looking well for Count Indaris' son. We eventually find ourselves outside a tunnel system called the Bowels. Now, the Bowels will technically lead us exactly where we need to go. However, they aren't necessary to even go through. If we descend down the cliff face just beyond the Bowels, it leads us to a path down below, in which we only need to fight a couple more enemies. And pretty soon, along said path, we lay eyes on 2 surviving Knights of the Thorn. Receiving a quest update, one of them turns out to be Farwill. As we approach, the Dark Elf comes over to us.
It's about time someone got here. What took you so long?
We ask him about the Knights of the Thorn.
We are knights sworn to uphold the laws of Cheydinhal. We fear no being, and we strike fast and true as lightning. Many wish to join our ranks, as we are of the highest echelon. Only a select few may join the finest force ever to grace the lands of Cyrodiil. Until now, we numbered only 7, but attacked like a regiment. Our enemies quake at our approach and falter at our charge. Huzzah!
We then ask him about the Oblivion Gate.
I set out with the rest of the knights to dispatch this blemish on the face of our fine world. When we arrived, we were overwhelmed. I myself was able to kill perhaps 2 score of them, but they just kept coming. Only Bremen and I remain alive. However, with you here now, we can take the sigil stone from that citadel and complete our quest for the good of all Cheydinhal. Huzzah!
We tell him that it's time for him to go.
Are you mad? A Knight of the Thorn never returns home until the mission is done. It's our way. Now, in my father's name, as Count Indaris of Cheydinhal, I order you to lead me to that sigil stone. I suggest we use the Raymond sweep formation. You'll assault, and we'll guard the rear flank. Onward and upward! Huzzah!
We then ask about the Oblivion Gate one more time.
The sigil stone for this Oblivion Gate is the key. As soon as we have it, we shall rid Cheydinhal of its existence.
Exiting this conversation, we turn over to his companion, Bremen Senyan, and engage in a more realistic conversation.
Even if Farwill doesn't say it, we appreciate that you're here.
We ask Bremen about Farwill.
Don't judge Farwill too harshly. Most of what he says is fabricated, but he's young and therefore quite brash and inexperienced. All he wants to do is please his father. I've known him since he was a lad, and fighting to defend Cheydinhal is in his heart. I just wish his heart was bigger than his hubris.
We then ask Bremen about the Oblivion Gate.
I'm sure you wish to hear the real story, rather than Farwill's version. Not long after the gate opened, Farwill decided an assault was in order. We charged inside and promptly met resistance. 3 of us were cut down in the first wave. We pressed on at Farwill's behest. At the base of the citadel, we met a larger second wave of foes. We lost 2 more in that skirmish, as well as Farwill and I being wounded badly. It was at this point we considered retreat. We found the way back blocked by more Daedra, so we were stuck here until rescued by you. It's just like Farwill to leap before he looks. Had we brought a City Watch contingent, we might have taken the Sigil Stone with minimal losses. Instead, Farwell wanted to prove his point. The City Watch and the Knights of the Thorn are always at odds. They think we don't have what it takes, and Farwell wanted to show them. Perhaps we're all to blame, but that's not important right now. We must complete our journey and get that stone. Please, help us.
Exiting the conversation, this is now where the hard part begins. Technically, if we were to just close the Oblivion Gate and disregard the lives of both Bremen and Farwell, we could complete this quest and receive a leveled amount of gold. If we're able to keep solely Farwell alive, Count Indaris will give us something more special than just gold. So our number one priority, apart from pulling out that Sigil Stone, is just to make sure that the Daedra don't kill Farwell. And luckily for us, we don't really have to care about Bremen. This, however, is way easier said than done. Remember earlier how I mentioned that the Daedra here are leveled? Well, both Bremen and Farwell are not, meaning that their gear stays at the steel level. So while we fight Kinmarchers, Valkanaz, Daedroth, Storm Atronachs, Zivali, and Spider Daedra, which all use very powerful weapons and spells, Farwell and Bremen are swinging away at them with their steel swords and hiding behind their steel armor. Plus, it's not always easy to take the aggro on every single hit. More often than not, we find Farwell charging in for the attack, and we're left in the dust. We didn't have too much trouble keeping Farwell alive in the exterior, but it was as soon as we entered inside of the tower that both Farwell and Bremen just simply could not stay alive. The ground floor of the tower contains a lot of Daedra, so pretty much almost immediately, a massive brawl breaks out, and it's almost impossible to draw all of the attacks away from Farwell. The lucky part though is that every time we respawn in, it's a new group of Daedra at the ground floor, so we got lucky this time in that the ones that were there weren't too difficult to defeat, and they were unable to summon Clanfear or other Daedra to come to their aid. Shortly into our trek, we heard a noise all too familiar.
Do your worst!
There was a lot of commotion, but we were more than certain we heard the noise of Bremen dying. Turning around, we see the Imperial laying lifeless on the ground. It was inevitable that Bremen was going to die, and all we really need to care about is Farwell, but we do feel bad about the fact that he was dragged into this whole mess. We continued to ascend the tower and cut our way through the Daedra. Incrementally, Farwell would get killed and we'd have to reload our previous save. Eventually, we arrived all the way at the top and cut our way through the remaining Daedra. Looking at the door, it read the title, Singulum Sanguis, which was a sight for sore eyes. The final area that we had to drag Farwell through was right there. The only thing we had to do was ascend all the way up the ramps and pull out the Sigil Stone. However, this is where we found out that Farwell was pretty much at the end of his rope, and one single hit from any enemy would result in his death. Reloading save after save, without a fail, Farwell Indaris would rush into battle and would get one shot. We had no way to heal him and no way to help him. Or so we thought. Inside of our inventory, we actually had 4 paintbrushes. If you're unfamiliar with paintbrushes in Oblivion, they're automatically bugged in the sense that if you were to drop them from your inventory, they remain floating in the air, essentially acting as an obstacle. Because there was one tight passageway before heading into the big room, we figured this was our one chance to actually stop Farwell from rushing in. It wasn't without its problems though, as Farwell was really good at finding a way past them. We managed to find the perfect placing for the paintbrushes and trap him in the first room. Time was definitely against us though, as we knew the Daedra would either find a way in or Farwell would find a way out. We bull rushed our way up to the Sigil Stone and pulled it out, just hoping that we didn't get that quest notification that Farwell was dead. Before we knew it, we were blinded by the white light and met with a loading screen. Upon our arrival back in Cyrodiil, we get a quest update that we should speak with Farwell. We see the gate close, turn around, and talk with the Dunmer.
We made it! Victory is ours once again. Huzzah! You've done well. I wouldn't have expected such bravery from someone who isn't a Knight of the Thorn. Now that this battle between good and evil has been won, and the day is ours, you should go speak with my father. He will reward you greatly for escorting me home and closing the Oblivion Gate. Since you have led us to victory, I am hereby giving you the honorary title of a Knight of the Thorn. Your name shall be revered, and your deeds placed into song, to be performed by the greatest bards for generations to come. Congratulations.
We ask him about the Knights of the Thorn.
As a Knight of the Thorn, you are now expected to carry this symbol of your knighthood. Carry it proudly and wear it well.
We then ask him about the Oblivion Gate.
No more will the gate threaten the good people of Cheydinhal. The Knights of the Thorn have triumphed once more.
Exiting the conversation, Farwill has officially made us a fellow Knight of the Thorn, and because of that, he hands us over a Knights of the Thorn medallion. The medallion doesn't do anything spectacular, but it does fortify our speechcraft for 15 points. Before going back, we decide to test out a little theory. We one-shot Farwill to see what happens, and as expected, we receive a quest update that Count Andal Indaris is not pleased with what happened, and therefore we forfeit any reward or bonus. Naturally, we reload the save and just simply fast travel back to the castle. Arriving, we enter inside and seek audience with the Count.
I'm pleased to finally meet the savior of Cheydinhal. I'm also overjoyed that you saved my son's life. I realize he's trying at times, and he speaks before he thinks, but he's still my son, and I adore him greatly. I'm sure he was difficult to travel with, and I respect your patience. Most would have given him up for dead, rather than deal with his ego. Anyway, I digress. I'm sure you wish to hear of your reward. I'm in possession of 2 fine weapons. They're both heirlooms of the Indaris family, held in the castle for several generations. I'd take great pleasure in bestowing one of them upon you. Please, choose the Thornblade or the Staff of Indaris.
Given our player's build, we choose the Thornblade.
The Thornblade it is. Again, I thank you on behalf of all the citizens of Cheydinhal, and I especially thank you as an elated father. Farewell, and may RK guide you.
Before leaving, we ask him about Farwill.
Even though he may be a bit misguided, I'm still proud to call him my son.
Finally, we ask him about the Knights of the Thorn.
I think if you had the chance to speak to any of the knights, they were happy to follow Farwill into battle. I'll be having a very long talk with my impetuous son. I don't blame him directly for their deaths, but he must learn to do things the proper way. He must realize he'll be ruling Cheydinhal one day. That's a responsibility I aim to make him ready for.
Exiting the conversation, thus officially ends the quest, The Wayward Knight. It's up to you if you think that going through all the trouble was worth it for a unique and leveled weapon, or if you would have just settled for the 450 or so gold. Taking a look at Thornblade, it's a unique, enchanted, and leveled weapon. It serves as a one-handed sword, and given our level, deals an overall damage rating of 26. It also has the enchantment of Disintegrate Armor for 120 points on strike. Overall, it is a very useful weapon, especially for our build of a sword-slinging heavy armored Nord. Now, if we went the alternative route and had chosen the Staff of Indaris, the staff has the enchantments of damage strength for 10 points on target, and shock damage for 70 points on target. Using this thing in combat, it definitely packed a punch against some basic bandits, and within 3 or so shots, each one died. I can definitely see how both weapons can be handy. The Thornblade is perfect for an enemy that's clad in full armor, and that say may be resistant to spell damage. While on the other hand, the staff is very useful for making quick work of those who oppose us. Until next time, keep on adventuring.